Every morning at exactly 6:15, Carl Donovan pulled on his sneakers, zipped up his windbreaker, and stepped out into the cool air. It didn't matter if it was foggy, sunny, or raining, he walked. Not a power walk, not a jog, just a steady, deliberate pace around his neighborhood park, a loop around the lake twice. 30 minutes. That was it. At 61, Carl had no intention of slowing down, despite what the doctors had once warned him. Just 2 years earlier, his blood pressure had been hovering at 150/95, and he had a cholesterol number he didn't like to say out loud. But that was before he started walking. It wasn't some dramatic overnight transformation. In fact, the idea of walking daily started with a conversation, one he didn't even want to have. "I'm not putting you on meds just yet," his doctor had told him, "but I'm giving you 6 months to show me something." That something had become a turning point. Carl had scoffed at first. Walking? That's it? But the science was clear. Brisk walking for just 30 minutes a day, 5 times a week, could significantly reduce the risk of heart attacks and stroke. It improved circulation, strengthened the heart muscle, and helped keep arteries flexible. And for people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, the heart attack danger zone, this simple routine was becoming known as a game changer. At first, it was a struggle. Carl's knees ached. His back tensed up halfway through. He found excuses on rainy days. But each time he considered skipping it, he thought about his father, who had suffered a massive heart attack at 58 and didn't survive. That memory, more than anything, got him out the door. Week by week, things got easier. Carl started to enjoy the rhythm of his walks. The squirrels that darted across the path. The older couple who waved at him from their porch every morning. The ducks that glided across the lake, barely making a ripple. And slowly his body changed too. His resting heart rate dropped. His blood pressure ticked downward, bit by bit. By the time he returned to the doctor at the 6-month mark, he had lost 14 pounds. His systolic pressure was under 130, and his cholesterol was almost within the ideal range. "You did it," the doctor said, flipping through his chart. "This is exactly what I wanted to see." Carl had shrugged, almost embarrassed by the praise. "All I did was walk." "Exactly," the doctor said. "And that's what makes it powerful. No pills, no fancy programs, just movement." But it wasn't just Carl who experienced this shift. All over the country, people were waking up to the benefits of walking, especially between the ages of 40 and 65. New studies were showing that walking not only improved cardiovascular health, but also reduced inflammation and lowered blood sugar, which meant less risk of diabetes and stroke. And it helped with another silent killer, stress. Carl didn't need a research paper to tell him that last part. His job at the logistics firm was demanding, with long hours and constant deadlines. But those 30 minutes in the morning gave him something nothing else could: peace, clarity, a reset. He started leaving his phone at home, stopped listening to music. Instead, he let his thoughts run their course. Some days he planned out his schedule. Other days he just observed the birds, the breeze, the hum of life beginning its day. Over time, a few neighbors began to notice Carl's transformation. His posture was better. He smiled more. He had energy, a lightness in his step. "Looking good, Carl," one of them said as he passed. "Just walking," he replied, chuckling. His wife, Marla, had initially been skeptical too. She preferred yoga and had never been a fan of early mornings. But when her own blood pressure started creeping up at 58, she decided to give it a try. They started walking together on weekends, then 3 days a week, then almost every day. Their walks became a ritual, a time to talk, to breathe, to reconnect. One Sunday, after a particularly brisk walk, they sat on a bench overlooking the lake. "You know," she said, catching her breath, "this has done more for me than any class I've taken." Carl nodded. "It's like medicine, but without the side effects." She laughed. "Except maybe for the sore legs." They didn't care. The benefits far outweighed the minor aches. They were sleeping better, thinking clearer, and perhaps most importantly, they felt in control of their health in a way they hadn't for years. Carl sometimes thought about how close he'd come to being one of those statistics, another man in his 60s whose heart gave out too soon. But instead, he had chosen to do the simplest thing possible: put one foot in front of the other. He began encouraging others to join him. A neighbor recovering from a mild stroke, a younger colleague with a family history of hypertension, a friend battling obesity. None of them needed convincing for long. Once they saw Carl's results and how easy the habit was to build, they were in. The park path, once quiet in the early morning, began to buzz with a quiet army of walkers. People nodding, waving, sharing smiles. United by the simplest of goals, to stay alive and stay well. By the time Carl turned 63, he had logged over 1,500 walks. He didn't count them obsessively, but he had started jotting them down in a small notebook his daughter gave him. Each entry had the date, the time, and a quick note. Clear skies. Felt good. Rained a little. Wore the blue jacket. Saw 3 geese by the lake today. It wasn't just a health record. It was a map of his second chance. For Carl, and for thousands of others like him, this one daily exercise wasn't just a prevention tactic. It was a lifeline. A quiet revolution on 2 feet. Because sometimes the simplest acts hold the most power. 30 minutes, a steady pace, and a heart that keeps on beating.